In this video, I'm going to tell you about 5 Adobe Illustrator tools that I already miss 1 week after switching to Affinity Designer, and it starts right now. What's up YouTube? This is Doug from merchmetrics.com. Welcome to another video. If this is your first time here and you want to learn how to design and sell t-shirts, grow your Merch by Amazon business, or to learn about other ways to make money selling print-on-demand products, start now by subscribing and clicking the bell so you don't miss anything. So the first tool that I miss after switching over to Affinity Designer is the arc or warp tool. It's the little things, right, that make your life easier as a designer. And when I'm trying to create banners or transform objects in Affinity, I find that the arc or warp tool has been my go-to. Now there are some workarounds, but I find that they're not nearly as easy and they're not nearly as seamless, and they're not nearly as powerful when you use a workaround. All right, the number 2 tool that I miss now that I've switched to Affinity is image trace. I like to take objects from real life, from a reference image, convert those over to a vector, and then clean up the vector for use in my designs. That way I know that I've created something unique to me that nobody else has. And while it's possible to do in Affinity with some third-party tools, most of those tools are paid tools, and so the money savings that I'm getting from switching away from Illustrator is somewhat diminished by the fact that I might have to pay for additional tools if I want to use a tool that I'm used to using. Now, again, there are some ways around this. I can manually trace an image, which just takes more time. There was plenty of time that I had to actually clean up an image, and cleaning up the image in some cases could take as long as creating your own from scratch. However, a lot of times if you're creating something that's going to be a background image, or it's not a major element of a design but something that's going to make it look a little better, image trace was the perfect way to get something quick and easy. So I am missing image trace quite a bit. All right, number 3 is the Shape Builder tool. The Shape Builder tool is a tool that allows you to paint over objects that overlap each other to select areas that you want to keep or remove. And it's something that I have become really accustomed to using for building complex shapes or to construct objects out of multiple shapes. So if you're creating, like, say, animal characters from basic shapes, this was a really useful tool because where things overlapped, you could just remove them. Say you were creating using an ellipse to create like the body of, say, like a cartoonish type of animal like a bear or something, and you wanted to do the ears, you could use another ellipse and then possibly an ellipse inside of that, and then cut off where that intersected with the head or the curve that represented the body. You can still use the binary tools in Affinity to accomplish the same kind of thing, but it's not one click and drag. It's more of a dissecting all of your parts and then putting those parts back together into a single object if that's what you want. So the Shape Builder tool is something I'm used to and I'm having to learn to live without. The number 4 tool that I have missed since I switched to Affinity is the Offset Path tool. Now, I have watched some YouTube videos on Affinity and looked at the workaround for not having the ability to use an offset path, and it involves creating a stroke, converting the stroke to a curve, expanding the stroke, and then creating another object as a stroke of that stroke. If it sounds complicated, it's because it is complicated and not something that I'm really interested in doing. However, there are ways around it. You can simply redraw. In a lot of cases, you're trying to create a larger object, and it's not going to be all that apparent to somebody from, like, say, the distance of 6, 10, 20 feet looking at a t-shirt design. They're not necessarily going to pick out all the small details. Oh, that curve doesn't exactly match the curve below it, and so it doesn't always matter. You can get by with using the pen tool or the curve tool and just creating a matching curve in a lot of cases. However, it's really nice and it's really fast, and I do miss it. The number 5 tool that I miss now that I've switched from Adobe Illustrator over to Affinity Designer is the Blob Brush. Now, I'm not sure if everyone uses the Blob Brush, and I'm not sure if everyone uses it like I do, but I like to use the Blob Brush when I want to create an object, but I know that it's not going to have a defined shape where I could easily create it with, like, the pen tool or the pencil tool. I don't have to worry about enclosing the object as I'm drawing or returning back to my origin, because the blob brush, as long as I have a continuous drawing, creates one single object. So it's a pretty powerful tool, and it's definitely something that I miss. It's only been 1 week since I switched over from Illustrator, and I have to say I did get some designs out. I did publish on a couple of different platforms, so I am able to be creative. I am able to create some things. I am finding that everything is taking me longer than I expected, and that's just part of learning a new piece of software. So I'm not disheartened yet. I'm just taking my time and trying to learn the tool, and I'm sure that as I get more familiar with it, some of these things will become second nature, and I'll know how to get around the tools that have become, a crutch for me in my design. So guys, if you like this video, please click like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll have more videos for you later this week.